All right. I heard the recording in progress. I don't know if anybody else did, but I will mute myself now.
All right. I want to thank everybody for attending the Lake Pit series, and we're starting to pull together a number of different topics that um, we'd like to share with folks to help them come up to speed or to refresh their knowledge on certain topics. This one, which dealt with containers, we thought was very relevant because of the changes that have happened to Elementor. And we hope that this gives you at least an introduction into what containers are. Larry has spent a lot of time putting this together, and we really appreciate it. Um, Last year, we asked people within Lake Kit if they wanted to have some type of a series or webinars on WordPress and other topics. And this is the response from that, because the response was yes, we'd like to have that information. And we'd be very interested in what other topics you'd like to hear, what other topics you'd like us to go over. And it can be pretty much anything. And you will also be hearing, I think, very shortly that there's a lot more um, different topics, not only from a lake kit perspective, but also from Wisconsin lakes that we're going to try to bring people up to speed with as far as what's going on. We have a lot of people that have some very good websites, and we would like to have them share some of their tips and tricks for what they do on their site so others people can use them. And the other thing that we hope will start to build here is a little bit of a community that people can share not only what they're doing on their websites, but what's going on in the area, what they see on their lakes, maybe what are some of their issues. People get to know each other a little bit. And that is really the whole purpose of this is to try to build that type of a community so that people know what's going on. With that, I guess we'll go around and introduce at least the volunteers if you haven't met us. I'm Dan Johnson. I've been with Lake Kit for a number of years and am also now a director on Wisconsin Lakes. And that just happened just recently. And I think all of us on the Lake Kit team are excited for that because it gives us some insight in what's going on and also some input on that. And so we'll be seeing some changes from that. I'd like to go around to the rest of the volunteers and have them introduce themselves also.
I'm
Karen?
Larry. I'm Larry Brazina. I'll be speaking tonight,
Yeah.
and I joined one of the first people that joined along with Karen.
And this is Karen Reynolds. I've been, working with Larry since 2016 and really enjoy my work with Lake Kit.
And then we've got Jerry.
Yeah, hi, Jerry Voigt. I am the newbie, so to speak. Been on the volunteer team for about a year, a little over a year. And if I can do it, you can do it.
And then
I'm
Stan.
Stan. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Stan.
I'm Stan Smanieski from Rock Lake, 1,300-acre lake between Madison and Milwaukee. So I guess we're down south for you guys. I think I've been with Lake Kit 4 or 5 years.
All right, with that, I think we'll just hand it over to Larry and let Larry go through it. You can ask questions either down below in the chat, and a number of us will be monitoring the chat. If we would like to hold the questions to the end so that Larry can get through this. But if you do have something that is like really important, why don't you go ahead and raise your hand and we'll try to get to it right there. All right, Larry, I'm going to hand it over to you. I'm going to put myself on mute.
Okay, welcome everybody. As I indicated, my name is Larry Brazina, and I've been working on this from the beginning back to 2016 timeframe. But tonight we're going to talk about containers and give you an introduction to containers. Here's the agenda that we're going to go through. I will give you a little bit of background first, and then we'll go through container basics, and we'll start practicing using containers and end up with actually building a very simple new page. And item number 7 is maybe important down the road. If you want to understand better what we go through tonight, you can click on that link and it goes through kind of a standalone activity to carry through what we're going to go through tonight. And then we hope to start another workshop in several weeks after you've had a chance to work with containers and introduce yourselves, and have mainly a Q&A kind of workshop at that time. And as Dan mentioned, if you've got questions, please, we should have time at the end, but you also could ask us questions through the link that shows under item number 9. And I want to make sure that everybody knows that this operation is run mostly by 5 dedicated volunteers: Karen, Dan, Stan, Jerry, and myself. So with that, let's go to the background information that I'd like to make sure everybody's aware of. We use WordPress as the basic for our web network of websites, and WordPress is the most popular host websites in the world. It's considerably over 40% of all the websites in the world. As indicated, we use Elementor plugin that works with WordPress. Plugins for WordPress add functionality, and one of the key plugins that exist is to use a drag and drop approach to editing. Prior to these plugins, you were more dependent on coding. Now we're at the point where you don't have to use coding to build a very nice website. Of the Elementor, of the WordPress sites, about 14% use Elementor. And I think we all know that Lakehead is a network of Wisconsin lake organizations. We have about 50 members, and a dedicated component of Wisconsin Lakes, our statewide nonprofit dedicated to protecting lakes. Now let's move on to containers and start talking about containers. Up until recent months, we used sections, and inside sections would put columns. But as things advance in the website world, Elementor has now switched to using containers, which are, so both containers and sections are basically rectangular boxes that we put our content in when we're building website pages. This change was made because of the continued evolution that we encounter with building websites. It's constantly changing. But containers improve page loading speed, introduce many options for design and layout, which you don't necessarily have to use. And it improves responsiveness, which is the ability to work with all the different size screens that we have nowadays. But using containers does require a learning process. But it isn't that difficult. One thing I want to make sure that we're aware of, though, is if you decide to start using containers, you have to make them active on your website, and then it's no longer easy to make new sections. You're expected basically to use containers going forward. However, these old sections still can exist and function, and will be, and sections and columns will be available into the future, both from LakeKit and from Elementor. But LakeKit, we volunteers are planning to build all new sites using containers because we think it's important to keep up with the changes that occur. Now let's look at a container box a little bit more closely. This shows the two versions of containers. The purple one we call a parent container, and that looks very much like a section currently does. It has the three icon tab at the top, but when you hover over that tab, it says container instead of section. And then if instead of having columns, now we have child containers, so you can put as many child containers as you want into this parent container. But that child container is indicated by a rectangle in the top left corner. So as I've been saying, these a section or a container look the same, but when you hover over them, it indicates whether it's a section or whether it's a container. And then inside of a parent can be, like I indicated, a child container, which is indicated by a rectangle in the top left corner, as compared to if you're using sections and you have columns, each column has this kind of icon in the top left corner. So you have on the left the nested child container, on the right a column in a section. And we need to keep in mind that in a typical web page, you usually have a header area, a main content area, and a footer. We're only talking about the main content area tonight. So if you want to convert main content, that's what we're talking about. The same process is used for converting your header and your footer, but those would also have to be done if you want to go completely to containers. And then there are really two different kinds of container types. We are using what's called the Flexbox container, shown on the left, where you can do just about anything you want to do. But the grid system has also evolved. It came after the Flexbox containers, and we could do a workshop on that in the future if it's needed. But right now, we're concentrating on using the Flexbox type of container. Now, we're going to go through some processes now where we will create a page that looks like this, where we're actually going to convert a section to a container, and then we'll add on to that page with some container components, and then build a standalone new web page. And I wanted to mention again that we've got, if you want after this session to work on this on your own, we have a document that summarizes what we're going through tonight and explains it in more detail, but in writing, and you can have access to this from this website. All right. As I mentioned, you need to make containers active if you want to start working with containers. And to do that, go to your dashboard and then go down to Elementor and then to Settings and then to Features. And then scroll down to where you have stable features, and there's an item called container, and you can see that it says active. So this site that we're working with tonight has been made active for containers. If you have not started working with containers, it'll probably say default. And if you want to start working with containers, you have to select active and then scroll down and click the Save Changes button. We've already done that for this site. And this page that I'm showing you here now is a section. As you can see, I'm hovering over the 6 dots on the top. So we've got a section which consists of, and it shows the column icon here. So this is a section that has 3 widgets in it. And if you want to convert, if your containers are active and you want to convert that section to containers, there's a convert button here. So I'm going to convert this section here. It says edit section. I'm going to click on that convert button, and then right below that section, a container reproduction of that section appears. So that appeared now. And so now if you hover over those 6 dots, now you've got a container. So we've got a section on the top, a container on the bottom. And let me show that a little bit more completely by looking at the structure, which is hidden behind the images here. How do I get rid of that? So you can see we have a section on the top and a container on the bottom. The section was converted to a container. The section had a column, and in the column there were 3 widgets. We converted that section to a container, which has a container inside it, and inside that child container, see it's a child container, we have the same 3 widgets. So we reproduced the section inside of a container. So now that we've reproduced the section, I'm going to delete that because now we have a container with the same information in it. So the section is now gone. All we have left is the container. And we're going to add to that now by going to the bottom of the page where there's a plus sign that allows you to add a new container. So I click on the plus sign, and now I mentioned that there's 2 different kinds of containers, and we're working with Flexbox containers. So I'm going to click on that, and that gives you all the structures that you can choose for this particular container that you're adding. The main point I want to make about these structures is that you have a vertical and a horizontal arrow. So we have the option now with containers to work with a vertical arrangement or a horizontal arrangement. The vertical arrangement is very similar to what we've been doing with sections and columns. You add a new widget to a column, it adds vertically on top of, above or below the widget that you had also added before. If you use the horizontal structure, then when you add a second widget, it adds alongside of the original widget. To start out with, we're going to add a vertical container. So I'm going to click on that. And this box with the plus sign in it is a vertical container as indicated by the downward facing arrow over in the left panel. We're going to first add a heading widget to that container. Then we're going to add a text editor widget to that container. And then we're going to add a container below that, a child container. And we're going to click on the horizontal arrow here to make it a horizontal container. Next, we're going to add 2 images. I'll drag 1 image into it, into the container, and I'm going to make it a medium size image, and then we'll go to the media library and grab an image and add it. Next, we're going to add another image alongside of it because this is a horizontal container now. And we're going to drag an image into I was hoping to add it to the left side. There it goes. I'm going to add this image to the left side of the first image. And then we're going to choose a thumbnail size for this image and go to the media library and grab an image there and add it in. So now I'm going to see that was a thumbnail size image, so it's smaller than the other image. I'm going to select the container, and then I'm going to go down in the left panel where it says justify content, and I'm picking center. So we will center these two images by clicking on that justifying icon. Now both images are centered horizontally, but we can also align the images by clicking on alignment centering. And when I click on that, the small thumbnail image should center vertically. As you can see now, the images are centered horizontally and vertically. Okay, let's add another container. And again, we're going to make it a horizontal container. And we're going to drag in a text editor widget this time. And we're going to delete a bunch of this characters. And I'm going to right click. I'm going to select this widget, and I'm going to go to the advanced panel, and then there's a width. The width is set to default. We're going to select the custom option and set a definite width. I'm going to enter 40%. So we've made this widget occupy 40% of the width available inside this container. If you leave it as it was in a default form, it'll just kind of fill whatever text you put in there, occupying the space available. We're going to enter event 1. And then go to the content panel and select bullet. So now we've got one bulleted event item, list item added. Now I'll add another one. So now we have a bulleted list. And the next thing I'm going to do is right click on this widget and duplicate it. So we've created two bulleted lists, both of them occupying 40% of the total width available. Next, I'm going to select the container and go to the Style tab. Then I'm going to go to the background and select the classic background, and then go to the color picker, click on that, and now I'm going to drag the darkness from dark to light and the hue from red to a bluish color, and change the background to of the container to a bluish color. Now we're going to add another horizontal container above the previous one. Again, we'll add a text editor widget and set that to go to the advanced and set that to a custom width of 33%. Now we're going to add a table. So if we go back to the content tab and select insert table and drag it to a 2x3 shape, and that adds a 2x3 table. And I'm going to just add a character in each cell so that I don't lose the cells, which has happened to me. And then I'll delete all this extra stuff. So we've added a 2x3 table, and we're going to next duplicate it like we did before. Uh-oh. I'm going to select the container, and somehow I think I forgot to designate it as horizontal. So it's acting like a vertical. So I'm going to click on the horizontal. And so now these two widgets are alongside of each other as I was intending it to do. And I'm going to duplicate it again. So now we've got 2x3 tables added into this page. The last thing we're going to do is go to a brand new page, which I call demo here, and just start from scratch with a page and just use containers. So first, again, like we did before, we'll select the flex box, and we're going to select a vertical container. See, it shows the vertical arrow. Then we're going to add a heading, and we're going to go to the Style tab and center that heading. And next, we're going to add a gallery. I'm going to first search for galleries. I'll drag this gallery in underneath the heading. And it's set up to be 4 columns, but I'm going to change it to 2 columns. So we have a 2-column gallery. Now we're going to go to the media library and grab 1, 2, 3, 4 images and create a gallery. We're not going to add any captions for this gallery. We're just going to insert it. And there we've got our little page, a simple page with a gallery, and we'll publish it. And then we'll look at it by viewing that page. There's our simple page with a gallery on it. So now back to our agenda. We've just gone through number 6. I've showed you the containers instructions that you can access here up here under the practice pages. If you want to follow through what we've just done on your own, using that should be a helpful written instructions. As I've mentioned, we will follow up with a containers Q&A in several weeks. And if you're interested, please attend, and we'll be available to answer any of your questions. If you have any questions now, we'd like to entertain them, or send your questions to the Contact Us link in the lakekit.net website. Do we have any questions, or do we have anything in the chat?
Larry, I have a question. This is Cindy.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
Previously, when I was entering content into a text box, I was always typing it into the column on the left, and then it would appear in the text box. And tonight it looks as though you're working directly in the box in the main part of the screen. And
Well,
not
in my
the
experience,
column.
and maybe some of the other people want to add into this, but you can add information either in either place, in the main middle area or in the left panel. The left panel, it works a little better, but you can do an awful lot by adding content in that main panel. So you can do it either way, but I think most people like working on the left side. Does anybody else have an opinion?
I'm the opposite. I was always told to work in the left panel, but I color out of the line sometimes, and I almost always work on the place on the screen where the material will appear. And that seems more intuitive to me. And I've never really had a problem with it. But if you end up with a problem with it, you can always go over to the left side to figure out what's going on. It's kind of the theory I used.
Yeah, and I think most
Right.
people do that same thing, Jerry. I think they kind of switch back and forth. And if you really want to tune something, you do it off on the left-hand side. But the main part of it is pretty simple to use.
Is
Yeah, I think if you want to do something like add a link, you can
Yeah.
do it. You can do it more completely if you do it on the left side.
is it better? I'm like the young lady just mentioned myself. I was always taught to do the left-hand side, but we were in columns then. Now we're in containers. Does it make any difference whether you're in the left-hand side in containers
No, I
or in the
don't think it
middle?
makes any.
No.
It works very similarly to when we were working with sections with respect to this question.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Were there any questions in the chat, Karen or Dan?
I didn't see any. No.
Okay,
No.
No, no, I don't see the list of people who's joined us is in the chat, and I've jotted those down for those of us who are volunteers. But I don't see any questions there.
the for me, uh, learning containers is it's almost, how do I say it? It's not endless, but there's an awful lot that you can learn about containers, but you don't need to in order to make a very decent website. And I guess you as the member has to decide how far you want to go. But we really want to encourage you, and we're available to help you start working with containers because over the long haul, that's what we expect to be more dominant.
So Larry, that's an obvious question then. Will sections then be not supported at some point?
I haven't, I'm not aware of anything like that. What brings to mind is watching some YouTube videos about using containers. And the person who presented that, with respect to that question of eliminating sections, they'd have millions of websites that they'd have to deal with if they wanted to convert all the sections to containers. So if it happens, it's not going to happen in the near future, I don't think. But of course, it's up to Elementor, really. If they would do it, I'm sure that they'll make it as easy as possible for those that are using Elementor.
Mhm. I can tell you with some I experienced with other web hosting providers such as Wix and also Squarespace and a few others. Um, those that do not use WordPress, they use containers also. And so it is a like what you said at the very beginning, it is a trend that is in the industry right now and trying to move that way for a number of very positive reasons. But it is a change.
And this is because there's something behind the scenes called CSS, cascading style sheets, that are used to format all this stuff. And that's advanced to a level 3. And that's where this Flexbox container stuff comes from. And that's why, as Dan just said, it's not just Elementor, it's other drag and drop plugins that are probably using it also.
Yeah.
It's that's where you have to deal with the trends.
And to
Any
I was just going to say to reiterate, uh, Larry's got excellent instructions covering everything that he just went over, so you don't have to remember it. He's got written instructions. And when we as Lake Kit send out a follow-up email, which we will, I'm going to send the recording to Mike Engelson. He will upload it to the Wisconsin Lakes YouTube channel. And as soon as that is loaded, we will send out an email to the whole Lake Kit community with the recording of this session and also with a link to this material that Larry has covered tonight. And you can print it and, set it next to your computer and follow along with what he did. As far as, you could make a practice page, then you could convert a practice page to containers first and mess around with it. It does take some thinking through. Also, we now have instructions on using containers. Most of it would be too basic for those of you, but it's there on the Lake Kit site under members only. The basic instructions, we've got a version of the basic instructions using containers and the basic instructions using sections and columns. So there is that written material as well.
Thank you for that, Karen. And if you have a question going down into the future, probably the best place to ask them would be at the lakekit.net site. Contact us. That gets to all 5 of us volunteers, so we will see your questions there, and one of us will respond.
We're getting a couple of thank yous in the chat from Jean and from Scott.
I wanted to mention that we will be at the Wisconsin Lakes Convention coming up. So if anyone's there, please stop by and say hello. We'll have a table. And we'll also be presenting a lightning session. Is that you, Jerry, that's doing that?
Yep, that's me. And as it is, it's 5 minutes. So if you're not there at the right time, you'll miss us. So, but it's a lightning talk. It's in the lightning talk session. I think the encouragement maybe at this point is, you don't have to do the conversion, but if you want to play around with it, fresh off of this demonstration is a good time to do it while while it's more fresh in your mind what you've observed, and of course you got the resources as well, but and ahead of a session where it'll be a little bit more of an open forum just to answer questions, and anything you have you can bring to that session. So in the next 2 or 3 weeks would be a great time to give this a whirl, and you can put your toe in the water, so to speak, and see how it goes. And we're there to back you up when we have that next session.
Yeah,
All right,
but one thing I think that Larry mentioned, but just to reiterate also, once you set containers to active, your existing pages can stay exactly the way they are right now.
Yeah.
But any new page you create or any new area of a page, if you want to add to one of your current pages, add some more content, you'll be adding a container once you set containers to active.
Right.
Okay, with that, are there any other questions?
No, but this looks a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. So now I'm
Oh,
looking
good.
forward to poking at it a little bit.
Oh,
Well, then
good.
Larry did his job.
Yeah, really, yeah.
Thanks very much for attending. We appreciate your participation.
All right, and keep your eye out for the next session that we'll have.
Thank you.
And
Thanks,
Karen will
everybody.
Karen, you will send out a link to a YouTube of this session, right?
Yes, as soon as Mike, I need to send it to Mike. I need to put it in my Dropbox account, and then Mike has to grab it from my Dropbox account and upload it to the Wisconsin Lakes YouTube channel. And as soon as that is done, I will send out an email to the whole Lake Kit community.
Thanks a lot, everybody, for doing this.
Oh, you bet.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Right.
Practice, practice, practice.
Yeah.
Good night.
Right.
That's right.
Jerry, we got to practice.
Yeah, I know, Brucey. We'll be good.
I want to be a good student now, Jerry.
Well, you're going to teach me, Bruce.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording as people are leaving, but many of them said thank you in the chat. So thanks to all of you.
And
Good night, everybody.
Karen, I don't want to ignore you either. You've been more help to me than anybody. So thank you. It goes way back.
You're welcome, Bruce. Yep, we go way back. Yep. Okay. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Right.
Good night.